G'day and welcome to another episode of Tascast. Today we're doing something a bit different and we're going to teach you how to shuck an oyster. Thanks very much to Freycinet Marine Farm and Oyster Bay Tours for this beautiful video demonstration. Let's get straight into it.
Love them or hate them, oysters are incredibly beneficial to our planet. They're filter feeders and can literally filter up to 189 litres of water per day. They eat phytoplankton and small bits of algae that drift through the water throughout tidal periods. In Tasmania, we have some of the most untouched aquatic environments in the world. This carbon-positive industry contributes to that pristine environment. So whether you're a lover of fine dining or just looking for a way to help protect our planet, consider giving oysters a try. Trust me, your taste buds and the environment will thank you for it. It just feels great eating something carbon positive. Now it's time for us to learn how to shuck an oyster, thanks to Declan of Oyster Bay Tours.
When it comes to shucking an oyster, what we're used to seeing is people will often shuck from the back, which is a perfectly fine way to shuck an oyster, but a hard way to shuck an oyster because the shell is the thickest at the back. And that's what they call the hinge. Yeah. And you see a lot of chefs will shuck from the hinge because you're less likely to chip the shell. So presentation-wise, it looks better. Yeah. But if you're just at home, it's much easier to come in from the side. Because as soon as we cut through this abductor muscle, the oyster will pop open and then you're ready to go and you haven't stabbed yourself. Being right-handed, we want to have the hinge pointing towards us because the muscle is always on this right-hand side. Doing it left-handed, you can probably already guess, but you're going to have it pointing away because the muscle is still on that side. But everything else is the same. So I suggest a nice good open grip of your oyster. A lot of people tend to stick their thumb on top and then they say it's really hard to open because you're holding it closed. So a nice good open grip and a good grip of your knife. And a good way of thinking about it, it's like an extension of your thumb. And this next step you don't have to do once you've had some practice, but initially it does give you a good guideline. They're using the edge of our knife here. We're just going to scrape down the side of the shell a few times to expose this white line coming along there. And this white line is telling me where the top shell meets the bottom shell. So that's where I'm sticking my knife in. So I'm going to come about halfway down and stick my knife just above that white line. And you'll always want to go above that white line because if you go below, it's like trying to stick your knife into a brick wall. So you'll always want to go just above it. And I'm going to hold it at a 45-degree angle. And at this stage, a lot of people tend to get pretty excited and they really start to screwdriver their knife, which is fine, but you'll chip a lot of shell into your oyster. So we're actually much better to go side to side like this. I will admit, a little bit of twisting does help to get your knife in, but then once you're in, side to side should be the way to go. So, applying a bit of pressure, coming in at my 45, make sure I'm in the right spot. I'm doing a little bit of twisting, like so. Just, you can see there, not doing big actions. My knife has gone in. And now I'm going to move it from side to side while I flatten it out, so I don't stab the oyster. So we come across the top. So no major actions, just going side to side as you flatten it out. That little pop. Yeah, and it should be noted though that I'm not even trying to open the oyster yet. I'm just getting my knife in. So we're going to keep going side to side until we're about halfway in with our knife. So I'm just going to simply go side to side, no major actions, just wiggling it in side to side, like so. And now we're going to open that oyster. But again, lots of people get excited and they really start working their knife, bring it around here and back, twist it up and down, and usually their thumb's on top and they turn it into a real soup. So all we have to do is, if my pinky is the knife, we're simply going to go forwards and back. And we've cut through that muscle and the oyster pops open. So I'll try and show you all, but I'm simply going to go forwards and back, and he opens up. Now of course he's still pretty closed, so instead of trying to fight yourself to open it, you can bring your knife towards the back of the hinge. Nothing technical there, my knife's just at the back. And we're going to give it a twist like you're turning a key. So it's just a little half turn like so. And if I hold it open with my thumb, you can see that he's still stuck to the top of the shell. And that's just moisture holding that there. However, if I was to rip that off quickly, it would most likely come with it, and then you lose that part of the oyster, which of course you can just eat separately. It just looks awkward in a social setting. So with our knife, we can just simply scrape that down to break that moisture seal, like so. So it all comes off. And then we can peel that off, and we haven't lost any oyster on our top shell. Nice and neat. Now, if you do have any bits of shell in there or bits of seaweed or mud from being in the ocean, you can actually use the water in there to your advantage to help clean it all out. But don't worry, because if you like that salty bryness, you won't actually lose that salty bryness. Because if you let that oyster sit for 10 seconds or more, it will actually fill up with water again, but with the water that it retains. So you don't lose the salty bryness. But the final stage of shucking an oyster, which isn't 100% necessary, but it looks good in front of your friends and family, is cutting them off the muscle, which is necessary, but then flipping them over. And what we're going to do is push down through that muscle. And it's like you're trying to push your knife through the bottom of the shell. So it's just a really firm push. In fact, think of it more as like a scrape.
Right.
So I get under here, it's a nice firm scrape, like so. So it comes off. The oyster is still held in place with moisture, so we can run our knife around the outside, loosen him up, so he's ready to eat. But we're going to flip him over. And there's two common ways, but no wrong way. Personally, using the flat of the blade, I like to push down on the outside. You can see that he wants to flip if I was to keep twisting. Or you might find it easier to go under the muscle with your knife and flip it away from you. But there's no wrong way of doing it. Whatever you find easier. And to be honest, it's easier not to do it. But I'm going to press down here and push and flip over. And then that's what we're used to seeing in a restaurant. It doesn't change the flavour at all, of course, just makes them a lot more expensive. So there we go.
Well, there you go. That is the best explanation I've ever come across on how to shuck an oyster. You can pull that one out the party and be the life of it. If you have enjoyed this video, hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, drop a comment down below if you've been shucking oysters the correct way the whole time, or if you know any other oyster facts as well. We'll see you in the next one.